get it? I think it's live now, right?
Here we go. All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Shannon White, and we are live in the Off-Res Organization Facebook group for a candidate Q&A with Danielle DeCoteau. This is our 10th candidate Q&A, and Danielle is running for Biculi councilperson. And so, Danielle, we usually like to start off with a little bit of an introduction, like a biography. So if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background, education, experience, all those good things, just to let the viewers get a better idea of who you are.
Okay. My name is Danielle DeCoteau. My Dakota name is Wakotiawi Chakbishkashkawi, stars above moving woman. I'm a U.S. Navy veteran. I served from 2001 to 2004. Again from 2005 to 2011 in the reserves. I've been on 3 deployments. While I was active duty, I was the first female E4 to become an assistant leading petty officer in charge of 32 men on a flight deck during all flight operations. I'm the mother of 2. I have 2 kids. My son, he's 23, and my daughter's 12, and I'm a proud grandmother of my little granddaughter. I'm the daughter of Marvin and Cheryl DeCoteau, and the great-great-great-granddaughter of Chief Gabriel Renville. I have 2 degrees. I have an associate's degree in general studies and another one in business administration. And this fall, I'll be graduating with my bachelor's in business from the University of Phoenix online. And with my work experience, I worked for construction management when I got out of the Navy. I graduated with my associate's degree in business administration, so I became the administrator / office manager for construction management, and I did that for 2.5 years. With that, I worked very closely with all the contractors, council, executives, legal. I was under the supervision of Vern Cloud. I worked 9 years in the planning for planning and economic development for the tribe as the office manager, and so I kind of overseen a lot of the budgets that have come within the tribe. I overseen the Section 7 funding, and I also worked closely with all the projects that we have at the tribe, and also with the feasibility studies, just by being part of the doing all the meeting minutes and participating within the minutes or the meetings. And then we would have roundtables within the planning department to do brainstorming for more economic development within the tribe. I also currently I'm working with the DARE program for the tribe. We were out delivering groceries to all tribal members, both on and off reservation. We would meet up with the off reservation down to Dakota Sioux and up to Dakota Magic during this whole pandemic. And I'm currently working right now with the COVID emergency assistance applications for all the tribal members that need the assistance. On reservation is 1,000 and off reservation is 500. I worked closely with EMS over the years while I was working in planning department. I helped with all the natural disasters. I did all the financial reporting for FEMA. I also volunteer with the elderly nutrition program as one of the drivers. Whenever they need help, I usually go, I've been going over there and helping out. I did that for 2 months before being asked to work with the DARE program. I also started the Desert Era Veterans group. Well, I was part of it that helped start it, and that was to help veterans deal with PTSD. And I also helped the South Dakota State University with their veterans program that they have down there. We were awarded 180 acres to help veterans deal with PTSD and to be able to be bring back, get back into society as a civilian again. And
That sounds
I have
awesome.
a lot of community involvement. With the SDSU thing, I also helped collaborate information for the native side of that program with the cultural side, just because we wanted to make it more diverse. And so when we went after the grant funding, that was part of something that we wanted to incorporate. And so I was kind of overseeing like the cultural side of it. Um, I do a lot of community involvement, whether whatever it is. I'm usually there. I've helped with the Earth Day walks and everything else when I'm off, and then I do. Um, I speak with the schools on and the youth over suicide prevention. I've taught the self-defense class at the System Watson College. Helping our young people to be able to protect themselves in case they ever get into a bad situation. Just because of the whole missing and murdered Indigenous women. Um, I've also started a new group called Indigenous Akichita Women. And with that, we're collaborating with the state of Washington on because they were the first state that that got a excuse me that got a resolution to work with the state in helping find our murdered and missing women. And so we wanted to bring that over here, and then all of a sudden we ended up. It was really nice of Tamara St. John to be able to get that law, that bill passed, for that here in South Dakota. I kind of get myself involved in a lot of different things, but it's a little bit about me.
That sounds like some really great stuff.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, let's get started on the questions. The first
Okay.
question is, what does transparency in tribal government mean to you? And how will you work towards transparency in tribal council if you're elected?
Well, I think that transparency is really important because a lot of people when they're running for office or council or whatever, they always say we need transparency, but getting the information out there to the people, whether because what you do, being elected into those positions, you're actually working for the people and not for yourself. And that's one thing that I think is really vital is that that we get that information is given to not just the district, but that all our membership is being aware of certain situations or anything that's happening within the tribe. It's important. I think that just being clear and having integrity to, be able to fulfill that position and do the right thing and giving that information out to the people, that's transparency to me.
Do you have ideas about how to get information out to the people that maybe is not happening right now?
Yeah. Okay. So, some people, right now, the only thing that we're getting is information like through the Shota. Well, that's after the fact. That, I think that if something is brought to the table by council or at council, that there maybe need to be a special meeting to get that information over to the district. So then that way we can make a motion on it because as a council rep, you're representing your district. Whether it's through social media, a web page, something that we need to create. I know Bikuli has the Bikuligans web page or Facebook page. Just getting information out there, that's transparency to me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And that brings me to my next question, which is, what do you think about councilmen who vote against their district's motions?
I don't agree with it. And the only reason why I don't agree with that is because you're there to serve the district. You're not there for yourself. And it's just, whether or not you disagree with the motion, that's not what you're there for. You know, you're there to serve and be a service to your district membership, you know, and for the people. So I don't agree with it.
Okay. What do you think about, let's talk a little bit about racism. Um, what do you think about racism, both on the reservation? I mean, not just out in the world, but amongst our own people on the reservation?
Um, oh, that's a tough one because I don't agree with it at all. I always try to stay neutral with everybody, whether or not so and so doesn't dislikes me or my family members, whatever. I mean, when it comes to politics or to the tribe or anything, you know, if you're working on something, you're not supposed to let your own personal feelings get involved. And so I don't agree with racism, even against our own membership. I totally disagree with it just because, you know, being in the military, I'm going to use this as a little bit of my background. Being in the military, where we have to work with all different races, we have to work with all different cultures, different age groups, everything. And so you don't have that advantage to be racist. And so I see that it's the same here at our tribe. And I always look at it like, you know, why would we want to do that or mistreat one person because of so and so or because of that or this? You know, when it comes down to like even like our social services or anything happening within the tribe, you know, I don't believe in racism at all because it takes a person who has integrity and who can be honest within themselves to be able to work with everybody, you know.
Yeah. And how do you address racism within the tribe?
Oh, that's a good question. um, how do you address it? Well, for me, it's easy for me to address because I avoid it. I don't believe in having been racist, you know, in any kind of way. Um, whether or not, you know, like I said, don't let your personal feelings get involved, you know. And if you see it happening, the best way to address it is to point it out. I'm a very vocal person. If I see something wrong, I'm going to step up and say something about it, you know. I won't stand for it because that's not who we are, especially as Dakota people, you know. And me being prior military, you know, we say we're a Kichita. Well, the whole meaning behind a Kichita is to put the people first. You know, everybody needs to come first. And so whether or not you have hard feelings towards somebody, that needs to go away. You know, because you're not there for yourself, and you have to remind yourself of that. You know, and the people come first. You know, that's how I view things.
Okay, thank you. Um,
Mhm.
so there's kind of been a lot of talk out there about how the tribe is in financial trouble and how there's been a lot of people saying that they think council should go back to just taking a stipend. Would you be willing to take a stipend instead of a salary, and why or why not?
Okay, so with the financial crisis that we're in, I honestly believe that we should be like when we had the shutdown, for instance. When the whole shutdown was happening, I think that council should have been on stipend for sure because you're not, you know, everybody was deactivated. All the boards and committees were deactivated. DCA was deactivated. There was no reason why we should have been paying our council um, you know, their full wages. They should have been on stipend. Um, I mean, in that situation like that, yes, I think they should have been on stipend. And with this pandemic happening right now, I don't see it going away anytime soon. So if we ever have another shutdown, I believe that it should be on stipend, you know, and that's how I feel about that because if we're active and working every day, I mean, as I was a travel employee for 11 years. I seen the things that were happening. I seen the leave being paid out. I seen the FICA being paid out. I seen the bonuses. I seen all of that, and I totally disagreed with it because I'm like, you're there serving the people, not your own self, you know. And so as a previous or a prior employee of the tribe, and you see how long it takes to build up that leave and how hard it is to get to those wages and everything else. I think that, you know, it's it's wrong to, you know, continue paying yourself when you lay everybody else off. It's wrong for that. I mean, because everybody should be in this together. We should all be working together, and um, you know, if you're not going to eat, I'm not going to eat. Something like that. That's my whole mentality on that. And I'm not afraid to say that because, growing up, when we grew up with nothing. We had no running water, no electricity. You know, we had a wood stove. We didn't have a vehicle. So there was a lot of things that I've done just and so when everything was shut down and there was no jobs anymore, I mean, it wasn't hard for us guys to be able to survive. Because we've gone many years when I was growing up without. So to me, it's a matter of adjusting yourself and your finances.
Yeah. So that kind of piggybacks onto another question, which is one of the biggest issues coming up in this fall's election will be our decline in revenues from our casinos due to the pandemic, which, I mean, we don't know how long that's going to go on. So in light of declining revenues, which programs or projects need to be reduced and or replaced, and how will you make a significant difference from other candidates running against you?
Well, so out of the tribe, there's some duplicated services that are out there, and I think that those need to be revisited. I'm not about trying to make people lose their jobs, but when it comes down to what is being paid for with gaming revenue, I think that we need to take a big, have a good look at the whole picture and do some reorganizations. I'm not going to pick and choose which department. It's all about reorganizing and looking at where we stand financially, because if we continue like this, we're just going to continue hurting ourselves as a tribe. And people say, well, we have three different casinos, but they were all shut down. All three of them were shut down. And so right now we're just trying to provide a social service to help the community, and the off reservation right now. And so with with the CARES Act money, and that's with the whole Wi-Fi and paying, helping with mortgage and rent and everything else. So I mean, it's sad to say, but I think that just reorganizing, restructuring the departments and everything else. I mean, we've done before. We've done with bare minimum, and we still succeeded. So it just depends on what kind of revenue we have coming in, and if whether or not we have to lay people off. I mean, it's a tough decision, but it would have to be done because we need to get back, to being able to support ourselves.
Okay, so it's reported that our grocery store has been losing money since it opened. The tribe has invested millions. What is your opinion on Dakota Crossing? And if we were to close it, what could we use the building for? And today at council, one of our attorneys that we hired, Steve Gunn, had mentioned that they're like -8 million or something like that, which is a huge number. So what do you think about the crossing?
Okay, so I know some people aren't going to want to hear this, but I worked in planning. The grocery store was never feasible to be in town. It was never feasible because we already had another grocery store. Right now we have Dollar General and Family Dollar. Both places where food is more affordable. And so, and it's sad to say because I really want to see like our grocery store succeed, but with the deficit that we have, I just don't foresee it even continuing. And so I think that with that property, one of the things that we were talking about was creating a new jail, the jail. And when you look at that property, it's built with concrete walls and everything else. And so and it has room for expansion and everything. So I think that that might be a better solution than, starting from scratch to build a jail facility. I mean, because we give out so much money to Roberts County right now. And the sad thing is, like, you see the inmates. I have relatives that work there, and they're very disappointed because they see inmates being mistreated, and our people are being targeted, just to keep that place full. So that would be my solution. I mean, that's my opinion of what I think, we should do with that building. I don't agree with continuing on, because we don't have no money right now to be continuously putting towards the grocery store. We don't have that right now. It would be different if times were different, but they're not right now. So with this whole pandemic, I mean, it's really affecting us long-term wise. And we have to look at the big picture. And, right now, what you had said about a negative 8 million, I mean, that hasn't even gotten out yet. That's just what was said at council today. So I think that revisiting our financial situation is a must. And it's a tough decision to make, but it's something that needs to be done.
Yeah, and I really think probably this election, I mean, I think is so important because we're in really tough times right now. So we really need council people that are going to be able to make good decisions and make hard decisions.
Yeah.
So
I agree with you.
What ideas do you have for economic development? You mentioned that you had planning experience, so I'm guessing you got a lot of ideas.
Oh, yeah. Well, we did have ideas even for like the grocery store at one point in time, where we were going to try to grow our own produce and use the apple orchard and everything that the tribe owns. And, that would have been a good resource for us to bring in our own produce and sell it and stuff. But some economic development I'd like to see is going green. We need to find a way to go green. I mean, for example, in the state of California, houses have to have at least 6 solar panels on them in order to be built. And I think that would really help our tribal membership too if we had solar panels. Another thing would be to use the HUD ICDBG monies to build a wastewater treatment to have an expansion on Dakota Crossings, Dakota Connection. At one point in time when we were in planning, we had a whole travel plaza. The whole idea was on paper, and it was going to probably be bigger than the Coffee Cup travel plaza, and it's sad because like we see little Summit, they're expanding with their Coffee Cup gas station right off the interstate, and that's something that we could be doing, and that would be generating a lot of money for us guys if we had a better facility there. That's one. Another thing would be to have a hemp processing plant. We know that, growing, I mean, everybody else can be able to bring their hemp to us and we could process it. If we would, we would be all the other tribes would be able to utilize us up and down the interstate and across, South Dakota, Minnesota, North Dakota. Another thing that, we talked about was manufacturing. You know, with Trump putting tariffs on and restrictions on us that we can't just get little parts, pieces and parts or whatever from any foreign countries. And I mean, right now it's kind of stopped everything. So I think that we need to be able to provide, um, provide for nationwide, I mean, not just here, but nationwide. We should be able to, whether it's like cell phone parts or whatever it is, whatever we want, because we can come up with all kinds of ideas, but we just need to sit down and, you know, put it on paper. But those are some of my ideas, and I think that the one that I really liked was the Dakota connection, though, because if we got a wastewater treatment and we use the funding for from the HUD ICDBG, we would be able to expand better, because right now what we're doing, what we only have, I think it's like a 2-inch pipe going from Sisseton to the connection, and so we can't really expand, because of the water resources. So I think that if we could do build our own like we did up at the Magic, I think that it'd be easy for us to expand. We could have you know little, like the coffee shop or the coffee cup. It has Pizza Hut, it has Subway, it has Caribou Coffee. I mean, we could be doing that and generating funds, So,
But I don't think a lot of people know that, because I mean, I hear a lot of people talking in the community about why don't we do more with the connection, but really that's the holdup.
Yeah, and like I said, if we build a wastewater treatment plant, I mean, it would open up doors, for us to be able to expand.
Okay, so let's talk about an issue near and dear to our entire membership on our page, which is off-res voting. So what do you think about allowing voting by mail-in ballot for all tribal members?
I think there needs to be a more collective research on that, because and it's not against off-reservation people, members. I think that it's because you need to make sure that that person is actually voting, and it's not being duplicated. There needs to be, it just needs to be looked at in a broader, more broad way, because it's going to be new. It would be new. It'd be new to us. And also, like, another thing that I have an issue with is like, when you're on the reservation, you kind of have a more idea of how people are day to day, and more of their character, what they're all about. When it comes to voting and their their morale. I mean, like the morale here. I mean, we have more of an idea, and it's other than social media, because social media you can't always believe it, sometimes, and people run with negativity all the time. I see it all the time. They'll run with negativity rather than getting the truth out of things, or the facts, and because I don't know why it is, but that's just the way things are, but I think that there just needs to be more research done on the whole mail-in and ballot, because we need to make sure that that person is actually doing the voting, and it's not being duplicated, or,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I don't know how you feel about that, but that's kind of like what I've been thinking about, and I'm for it, but then I'm kind of teeter-tottering on it, because I'm like, we need to have research. I mean, there needs to be a way to know that that person is the one doing the voting, that if it's a card or whatever is being mailed to them, that it's not being duplicated, and that it's the original, it's stuff like that. There's
Yeah.
a whole process to that.
Well, there's a lot of other tribes that have done it, or that are doing it, and they have very low voter fraud. So it can be done. Um, so, do you support cultural preservation, specifically our Dakota language, history, artifacts, and art?
Yes, I do. And the reason why is because without our language, without our culture, without our history, our future generations aren't going to know who they are or where they come from. And so I love what we're doing right now at the, with the language. Um, you know, more and more people are picking up on the language and speaking more fluently than we have in the past. People are tribal members who've never even spoke it before, speaking fluently now. Um, the art, preserving our art, I mean, it's a big deal. I mean, I think that it's part of our culture and part of who we are, and we need to carry that on. So, yeah.
Thank you. Do you have any special issues that you would like to work on as a tribal council person?
Um, Actually, I do. One of them is housing. I think that that rather than building houses, I think because a lot of tribal members don't necessarily want to take care of a yard or want all the property, I think that we need to have apartments. I think that we need to build apartment structures to go up rather than one or two floors. You know, I mean, if you go to Fargo, you're going to see all these apartment structures just popping up everywhere, and you can house about 30 people in a 3-story. You know, so I think that we need to focus a little more on housing because right now, well, I don't remember the numbers right now, but I know it was like over 500 tribal members here within the reservation boundaries that needed housing. So, I mean, our numbers are high, you know, and I think that if we can focus more on apartment building rather than building houses, I think that's one thing that I would like to work on. And also with the drug use, you know, I think that's really important that we touch base on that because um, meth is taking control of our people, and it's really sad. I mean, they need help. We need to be able to have uh, uh, I was like trying to think, a treatment center. Yes, we need to be able to have a treatment center that focuses mainly on meth. You know, meth and helping our tribal members sober up from that. You know, and finding an outlet rather than running to drugs. I mean, there's so much stuff that we could be doing as even with getting a tax. You know, if we're selling alcohol in like we are right now in our grocery store, then we should have been utilizing some of that money for tax to go back to like a treatment center or even with our casinos. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we could be doing to try to generate revenue to help build a treatment facility. You know, to focus mainly on helping with drug addictions. You know, because we really need to get our people back on track, and it's it's taking control over even our younger generations now. And
Yeah,
so
kind of scary.
it is very scary.
Okay, let's change tracks a little bit. We have the
Okay.
next couple questions are kind of more about council and governance and things like that. So how do you view the purpose and function of tribal council? Is it legislative or administrative body? Please explain.
Well, our council is legislative. You know, I don't if because we make these decisions to help provide policy, law, everything, you know, I think that it's really important that our council realizes that we're not administrative. That's why you have an executive office. That's why, you know, that's why you have an executive is so that they can manage and do administrative work with their managers, you know. Um, it's not the responsibility of council to be doing hiring and firing. You see it a lot. You see that happening a lot, and I don't agree with it just because a lot of the times the hiring and firing is own relative. I mean, to get a relative in there, and that goes along with that whole racism thing with on tribal members, um, and we need to get away from that. That's one thing that I would like to do is sit down and um, if elected in, is to sit down with all of the council and have a training, a one-on-one, and say, hey, this we are legislative. There's a difference between legislative and administrative, and that's what we are as the governing body. We're like the organ of the tribe. I mean, we need, and that's why that council chamber is shaped like the ribs of the buffalo. Because we got to remember what we're there for, and not to be there to try to micromanage. That's why you have program directors. That's why you have your executives to oversee those program directors, those programs. So yeah, that's there's a whole thing that goes with that, and I've seen it a lot, like so many years that where we've just been going away from being legislative, and it's starting to get more involved with the administrative side of things, and we just need to put the focus back on being legislative.
Yeah. And I know they have like council when they're elected, they have like some kind of orientation. I mean, you would think that that would be included in there, but I don't know.
Well, yeah, that and um, doing a informing the council of how the funding should be spent, because a lot of the times you look back, I mean, not a lot, all the time, the money is being commingled, and it's like you can't use that funding for that because that is actually for this. And the federal government can actually shut us down for or take back the funding for utilizing funds like that, or even shut down our casinos because we're not using Section 7 in the right way, the way that it should be administered. And using money that's earmarked for projects. I mean, anybody who's taken any kind of financial literacy class knows that if you don't have money to pay Peter, then don't take it from Paul. You know what I mean? Like you don't take the money from there. You got to find another avenue. And so I think that it's really important that council gets educated on the uses of the funding, because as a tribal member, I sit back and I watch, and I don't agree with a lot of the things, because it's like you need to be educated on what funding you can use and what funding you can't use for certain things. So that's how I feel about that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, have you read the duties and responsibilities of the council that is in the early legislative policy, and do you agree with it as written? Why or why not? And are you in favor of a written document that spells out the duties of council? That kind of goes along with what our discussion has been.
Yeah, I did read them, and it's very vague. It's very vague, and it creates a lot of loopholes for council to be able to make different decisions, and I think that it needs to be revised. I do believe that it should, they should be spelled out pretty much, because, you get a lot of, if you look back, a lot of the people who are voted in council is voted in by family members, and who is who. I mean, my district, I know I don't have a whole lot of family in my district, but I hope that people look at me and see that I'm a neutral type of person. I carry myself, in a positive way, and I try to be a good role model for everybody, because you got a lot of the youth looking up at us, watching us. They're watching us and everything that we do, and so I think that it needs to be revised, and basically have a whole sit down. I don't agree with like how things can be just manipulated within the Constitution, because I don't, that's not what they're there for, you know. So yeah, I think it needs to be revised, and I think that the wording needs to be more direct, you know.
Okay, that leads kind of into the next question, which is, are you in favor of the current way that tribal council and executives are suspended and removed from office? Explain. How would you make it a more fair, complete, and factual process?
No, I don't agree with it. And the only reason being is because if a council member is to be removed, they have to have 20% of the district membership to do that removal. And as an executive, I think the executives are elected in by the people, you know, by all tribal membership, and so it should be the same process with the removal of an executive, you know, or if there's something that that executive has done that is so extreme that, you know, they get the I mean, there should be like levels to it, like a tier of how it should be done, not just because you want to make the decision, you know, because you have to remember when you're sitting in council that you're actually making the decision based on the district membership, not for yourself, you know, and we've seen that a lot. Also, with all the removals that we've been having over the last, 10 years, it's, it's cost us a lot of money as a tribe, lots of money that we should not have to be throwing out the window like that, you know. So
I mean, think about right now. We just had a chairman election, and I mean, we're really in a financial crisis. Could we really afford that?
exactly,
Where'd the money come from?
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. You know, like we're hurting ourselves even more because, and that goes back to the whole racism thing, you know, against tribal members. And I think that, you know, when you're sitting in these positions, you have to weigh things out. You can't just make the decision based on Facebook, based because, you know, it's kind of like what ran with the whole with both of the this terms removals. You know, I think that it needs to be more professional, legal. Everything needs to be you know, reviewed. Like that's, and I think that it needs to be rewritten. Our Constitution needs to be rewritten so that it's more leaning towards, if in all fairness, it takes 20% of council, I mean, of the district membership to remove a council rep, right? So that should be the same for an executive. I mean, rather than having 7 people sitting there making that decision, you know, on one person, I think that it needs to be, the voice of the people needs to be heard. That's
Yeah.
my opinion on that.
And regarding the Constitution, what other changes would you make?
Um, oh, geez, that's a good question, because right now our Constitution is very vague, and so it leaves it for, like I said before, there's a lot of loopholes that, you know, you can get around to manipulate our tribal law. You know, so I think that we need to just, isn't that why we have our Constitution Revision Committee? You know, but I think that the districts need to be more involved with those kind of decisions too. You know, as far as changes and stuff, basically just rewriting the removal process, rewriting the duties of for us, for us, for council and for executives, just because I think that, you know, whether or not I get in or the next person gets in, there needs to be something that they can follow, and that's more black and white, you know, than what is there right now, because there's a lot of gray areas within our Constitution. So,
Yep.
and that's because we can't make changes unless you get what is it, 30%?
30%. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so
And it's been many years since we've had 30% of our voters
it
participate.
has been.
Yeah.
Yeah. So seeing that alone kind of restricts us from making, any kind of changes, and it stays the same, and
Yes.
that needs to be changed.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Danielle. That's the end of our questions, but we like to leave a little bit of time at the end for you to say anything else that you want to leave the viewers with. So if you have anything to say, then now is the time.
Or forever hold your peace.
Yeah.
Well, I really hope that I gave some good insight on what type of council rep I would be representing the Iacaptapi district. I just want to let the people know that I try my all best to be fair, neutral. I always try to have integrity. I don't believe in treating others unfairly. Um, um, I just want to be able to make a good choice or decision for our district with by having the voice and the district backup on, supporting my decisions if I get in. Also, I don't have no intentions of ever trying to be my own person and running the show for the district, because I don't feel that that's right. I think that, being a district representative means exactly that, representing your district and trying to do what's right for our people and for our tribe. So I really hope that you guys all look, you know, support me in this whole campaigning, and I look forward to the future and seeing how we can make a difference, make some changes for the positive and for the good for our future generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle.
Mm-hmm.
For everybody else, we'll be having another candidate Q&A tomorrow night. That's August 5th. And we'll be hearing from Gypsy Wana, and she's running for Haber District. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye.